January 25, 2011, Tahrir Square, Cairo. Inspired by the spirit of revolution in the Arab world, Egyptians had come out in large numbers demanding freedom, setting off a chain of events that led to the fall of then-President Hosni Mubarak, Egypt's army dictator of almost 30 years. 4 years later to the day, Tahrir Square was filled with riot police arresting pro-democracy activists once again. Fatefully, that very day, Giulio Regeni, a 28-year-old PhD student from Italy, texted his girlfriend, "I'm going out for a birthday party," and was on his way to Doki metro station when suddenly, "Giulio Regeni, come!" Meanwhile, his friends were waiting for him at a nearby cafe. "Where's Giulio? He should have been here by now." They tried to contact him, at first with text, then with frantic calls. Later they gave up and went to the police. "A friend has gone missing." Regeni had arrived only a few months ago in Cairo to conduct research for his doctorate at Cambridge University. A leftist at heart, he was enthralled by the revolutionary spirit of Arab Spring while still a university student in Leeds, UK. Mubarak's fall had led to free and fair elections, a rarity in the Arab world, where Mohammad Morsi of the Islamist party Muslim Brotherhood emerged victorious. A conservative himself, Morsi looked to Islamize the country with a new constitution and tried to award himself total executive control, which would help him bypass the judiciary. General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, believing that the army would be sidelined under the new regime, ousted him in a military coup, using vague fears to justify the power grab. "If we don't control the dangers of extremism, we could disintegrate and become the next Syria, Libya or Iraq." Despite this disturbing development, initially Regeni even approved of it. It's part of the revolutionary process. For years, Regeni kept following Sisi's government closely, observing and analyzing Egypt's political and economic trends from afar. But when he came to Cairo, he noticed it had turned into arguably a harsher place under Sisi. "This is worse than it ever was under Mubarak. The market is full of government agents." The country's parliament was stuffed with Sisi's supporters, holding over 2/3 of the seats, and the jails filled with his opponents, primarily from the banned Muslim Brotherhood, including Morsi, who died there in June 2019. Everyone was under the crosshairs, the press had been muzzled, and lawyers and journalists were regularly harassed. Opposition leaders and activists like Muhammad Ali, fearing arrest, fled the country. There were also murmurs of state-sponsored kidnapping and execution of activists. Even foreigners weren't safe anymore. Australian journalist Peter Grest of Al Jazeera was jailed for 13 months on charges of damaging national security. A French student was expelled for interviewing democracy activists. Regeni himself was treading on shaky ground. He interacted with street vendors and mixed with union workers, the very people who helped oust Mubarak in 2011. To win their trust, he ate from the same grubby street carts as them. Yet Regeni was also conscious of Cairo's dangers. He once told a friend, "It's very depressing. Everyone is super aware of the games that are going on." But Regeni felt untouchable, believing that his passport would protect him. His only fear was that he would be sent back to Cambridge before he could finish his research. Little did he know, he had already come under the microscope of Egypt's intelligence agencies. National Security Agency officials had searched the apartment he shared with a friend a month before he disappeared. Wherever he went, they followed. When he conducted interviews, the police would later raid that place. In December 2014, when Regeni attended a meeting of trade union activists in central Cairo, he had noticed a veiled young woman taking his picture with a cell phone. The episode had left him shaken. Then the relationship with his main contact and head of the street vendors union, Muhammad Abdullah, took a strange turn. Abdullah demanded the 10,000 grant money Regeni was trying to arrange from a British NGO to help the union. "I need the money to pay for surgery for my wife. She has cancer." "Mish mumkin, it is not possible. I'm an academic. The British Foundation will not give money for personal reasons." 2 weeks later, Regeni went missing. His friends started an online search campaign with the hashtag "Where is Giulio?" Maurizio Massari, Italy's ambassador to Cairo, knocked on every Egyptian official's door, only to be met by false assurances or stonewalling. The most disquieting encounter was with the powerful interior minister, who took 6 days to agree to a meeting. Magdi Abdul Ghaffar, a 40-year veteran of security services, had an army of informants on the streets of Cairo. "We need your help in finding Giulio, or we don't know where he is." But the very next day, while the Italian ambassador was hosting a reception, Egypt's deputy foreign minister Hossam Zaki walked up to the ambassador. "A body has been found." Early that morning, a driver of a passenger bus had discovered a body in a ditch alongside the Cairo-Alexandria highway. It was Regeni. An Italian autopsy confirmed that Regeni had probably been flogged on the soles of his feet over a period of 4 days, as well as beaten, burned and stabbed. The extent of torture had been so bad that Regeni's mother could only recognize him by the tip of his nose. Ahmad Nagi, the prosecutor who initially oversaw Regeni's murder investigation, spoke with astonishing bluntness. "He suffered a slow death. The police might be involved. We are not ruling it out." But then later changed his tone. "Murders can go unsolved. We will just have to wait. Inshallah, something will come of it." The Egyptian police didn't even accept he was murdered. "We believe that he died in a car crash." Soon, lurid theories started appearing in Egypt's state-controlled media and newspapers.
It seems Regeni was gay and was murdered by a jealous lover.
It appears he was a drug addict and being used as a pawn by the Muslim Brotherhood. He was a Western spy. He worked for either the CIA or MI6. But people in his home village of Fiumicello in Italy were not buying the stories. More than 3,000 of them attended Regeni's funeral in his hometown. Italy's then Prime Minister Matteo Renzi was determined. "We will stop only when we find out the truth, the real truth, not a convenient truth." By this time, a team of 7 Italian investigators had arrived in Cairo to help with the investigation. But the Egyptian police kept putting obstacles in their path. "We need telephone data from the day of the incident. We cannot give you that. It would compromise the privacy rights of Egyptian citizens." Similarly, they noticed that witnesses appeared to have been coached, and the surveillance footage from the subway station near Regeni's apartment was missing. Italian officials were also worried that Egyptians who worked in the Italian embassy were passing information to Egyptian security forces. But international pressure was building on the Egyptians, and they needed to close the case. Then on March 24, 2016, Cairo police opened fire on a minivan carrying 5 men who had criminal records or histories of drug abuse. In a subsequent raid on an apartment linked to them, the police claimed to have discovered Regeni's passport, credit card, and student identity card. While the state media reported, Regeni's killers have finally been identified. In Italy, news of the shooting was met with skepticism. The hashtag "Non si credo, I don't believe it" circulated on Twitter. Not surprisingly, the Egyptian version of events quickly fell apart. The men were executed in cold blood. One was shot as he ran, and his corpse was later positioned inside the van. Phone records later showed that the gang's leader Tariq Abdul Fateh to be 60 miles north of Cairo the day he supposedly kidnapped Regeni. Immediately after this incident, Milan-based newspaper Corriere della Sera published a list of 735 missing Egyptians presumed to be in jail or dead just in the last 8 months, shaming the Egyptian media who finally found their voice. The case was handled badly from the very beginning. Even Al-Ahram, the newspaper considered close to the Sisi regime, abandoned the government line. At one time it seemed that Egyptians would never let the truth come out, and even Italy had recalled its detectives, and in protest replaced Ambassador Massari, transferring him to Rome, straining diplomatic relations between Italy and Egypt, something which was bad news for them both. Egypt was Italy's biggest weapons buyer, while Italy needed Egypt's oil. But Italy had kept the pressure on. It was a matter of time who would blink first. Finally, the Egyptians cracked. In a trip to Rome in 2018, Egypt's chief prosecutor Nabil Sadiq publicly admitted the NSA was suspecting Regeni of espionage and had been monitoring him. Over the next few months, he provided the Italians with documents, phone records, 5 key witness statements and a video. Unbeknownst to Regeni, his contact Muhammad Abdullah was an informant for the National Security Agency. He had recorded their conversation about the grant money through a hidden camera. Later, he handed over the video with details of his meeting to his handler, Major Sharif Magd Ibrahim Abdulal. "Very good, Abdullah. You will be rewarded." The NSA suspected Regeni might have been trying to fuel social unrest through the unions and finance it through a grant. In January 2021, Italian prosecutors accused Major Sharif of kidnapping, murder, and grievous bodily harm. According to a witness, Major Sharif boasted in 2017 about the operations against Mr. Regeni during a conversation with a Kenyan counterpart. We heard from wiretapped communications that he was planning to go to a party near Tahrir Square. We stopped him before he could reach. They will most likely be tried in absentia in Rome. If found guilty, Italy could demand their extradition, but Egypt is unlikely to grant it. It was only because Regeni was a foreigner and the Italian government refused to give up that other Egyptian disappearances have come to light. But unlike Regeni, they have yet to get any semblance of justice. BISBO's limerick. Giulio Regeni was fascinated by Egypt's Arab Spring. He thought even he could some changes bring. But his meddling was resented and a plot fermented as the generals eliminated any threat to their position as king.